Welcome back, everyone, to another deep dive. Today, we're going to be looking at something that's causing a lot of buzz, especially in the creative world.
Oh, yeah, definitely a hot topic.
The UK government's new AI Opportunities Action Plan. At first glance, it sounds pretty promising. Wants to make the UK, a leader in AI, boosting resources, attracting talent.
All right, buzzwords.
But there's one proposal that's got people, especially artists, kind of fired up.
It stirred up a hornet's nest for sure. This plan, it proposes a pretty big, actually radical shift in copyright law.
Okay, let's break this down. What exactly are we talking about here?
Imagine this. Instead of AI companies needing permission to use, copyrighted stuff for training their models, creators would have to actively opt out to protect their work.
So basically any creative work in the UK would be fair game unless the creator specifically puts up a big no sign. That feels like putting a huge burden on creators, doesn't it?
You got it. It flips the whole system on its head.
So why such a dramatic change? What's the argument for this?
Well, those in favor, they say it'll make getting data for AI training way easier. Could fuel a boom in innovation, they say. The thinking is, with more data, AI could unlock, new forms of creativity, artistic expression, stuff we haven't even thought of yet.
That's an interesting thought. But I can't help but wonder, couldn't this lead to big AI companies, the ones with all the resources, just exploiting creators without really facing any consequences?
Yeah, that's a big concern a lot of people have.
Imagine some company, let's call it Great British AI. Their goal is to replace like human creators with AI.
Replace us all, eh?
So under this proposal, they can just legally grab any creative work online by, British creators, train their AI on it. And then, bam, they're generating and selling stuff based on that data, probably at a fraction of the cost.
It's a dystopian scenario, but you're not wrong.
But hold on, wouldn't those creators still own the copyright to their original work? How could this Great British AI actually sell something based on someone else's creation?
That's where things get tricky. That's what's got so many creators on edge. Think about it. Let's say a composer, right, writes a beautiful choral piece.
Okay, I'm picturing it.
They sell the sheet music. A choir, they perform it, record it, it gets played on the radio. How on earth is that composer going to track down every single instance of their work to opt out?
Yeah, that sounds practically impossible, especially in today's world where everything's online, constantly being shared.
You hit the nail on the head. It makes opting out completely unrealistic. And this problem, it's not just music, it's books, photographs, films, everything.
So even though the original work is still technically under copyright, AI companies could just grab it, make something new, and the original creator gets nothing.
That's the fear. No permission, no compensation.
Okay, so if this opt-out idea is so problematic, what's the alternative? I know the material you sent over mentioned the U.S. fair use doctrine. Is that something the U.K. should be looking at?
Fair use is a whole different approach, for sure. It allows some use of copyrighted material, without needing direct permission. But it looks at a bunch of factors, like what's the purpose, what's the impact on the original work's market value.
So, unlike the UK's plan, it tries to find a balance. The needs of AI development on one hand, and on the other, the rights of creators and the potential harm to them.
You got it. It acknowledges that sometimes using copyrighted stuff without permission might be justified. But it's all about protecting creators. Like, using a snippet of a song for a school project might be okay under fair use, but using that whole song to make a competing track, a commercial one, that probably wouldn't fly.
Makes sense. It really makes you wonder, is this massive copyright overhaul even necessary? I mean, there are already successful AI applications out there that don't use creative works for training, right?
Absolutely. A prime example, AlphaFold. This AI predicts protein structures, and it was trained on scientific data, not creative works. Shows that AI can be innovative without needing to, raid everyone's creative output.
This brings up another point. What's the motivation behind this UK proposal? Some people are saying it's all about attracting those big foreign AI companies to the UK, even if it means, throwing their own creative industries under the bus.
It's a big part of the debate, for sure. Whose interests are really being served here? Is it about genuine AI innovation, or is it about attracting investment, even if it comes at the expense of, individual creators, their livelihoods?
Well, it's clear the creative community isn't happy. We've seen big names like Paul McCartney, Kate Moss, Kate Bush, all speaking out against it.
Yeah, and you can understand why. They're worried about losing control over their work. And let's face it, competition from AI-generated content, that's a whole other can of worms, could have a huge impact economically on the whole creative industry.
So we've got a real tug-of-war here. The government's pushing for AI development, big tech wants more data, and creators are worried about what it all means for them and their work. This goes way beyond just copyright law, doesn't it?
Oh, absolutely. This gets into some deep questions about what creativity even is. What's AI's role in all of this?
You've got me hooked. Let's dive into that.
It really forces us to redefine what it means to be creative. I mean, for centuries, we've always seen creativity as this, uniquely human thing.
Right, like something special only we can do.
But now we've got AI stepping onto the scene, and it's making us question all those assumptions.
So it's like AI is making us rethink what art is, who gets to be called an artist.
Yeah, and it throws up all sorts of ethical and philosophical questions. Like, if AI can create a painting, a piece of music, write a poem, should it have the same rights as a human artist? The same recognition?
Whoa, those are big questions.
Oh.
Makes you wonder if the laws we have, can they even keep up with how fast AI is changing everything?
That's the challenge, isn't it? Copyright law, the whole system, was designed for a world where humans were the only creators. Now we're scrambling to figure out how to make those laws work in a world where AI is, well, a major creative force.
Feels like we're on the edge of a massive shift, not just in the creative world, but like in society as a whole.
Absolutely. How we work, how we create, how we even value art and innovation, AI is going to have a huge impact on all that.
Okay, but what about people like me who aren't artists or programmers? How does this affect us?
It affects all of us because the decisions we make now about AI, about copyright, they're going to have ripple effects for years to come.
So this is about more than just protecting artists' incomes. It's about shaping the future of creativity itself.
That's it, exactly. Making sure that AI helps human creativity, not replaces it. We need to find that balance.
Okay, so far we've talked about the potential downsides of this UK copyright reform. But are there any upsides, anything good that might come out of it?
Yeah, that's a good point. We need to acknowledge there are arguments for making copyrighted stuff easier for AI to use.
Like what? What are they saying?
The argument is it could lead to a burst of innovation, open up possibilities for new types of creativity, new artistic expression, things we can't even imagine right now.
So it's like opening a door to a whole new world of creative possibilities.
That's the idea. AI systems could collaborate with human artists, pushing the boundaries, creating whole new genres of art, music, literature.
I mean, that does sound exciting. But how do we balance that potential with the need to protect human creators?
That's the million-dollar question. There's no easy answer, is there? It needs careful thought, a lot of discussion. We need to find solutions that work for both sides, AI development and human creativity.
It's almost like we need a whole new way of thinking about creativity, about what intellectual property even means in this age of AI.
You're right, the old rules don't apply anymore. We need new guidelines, ones that reflect how fast this technology is changing things.
So where do we even begin? This feels so overwhelming.
We start by recognizing that it's not an either situation. We don't have to choose sides, AI or human creativity. We can and should be working towards a future where they both thrive.
So it's about finding that middle ground where AI and human ingenuity can work together, where they complement each other.
Exactly. A system that encourages collaboration, not competition. A system that recognizes that both human and artificial creativity have value.
Okay, I'm starting to get the bigger picture, but it's still a pretty daunting challenge.
It is, no doubt. But it's also incredibly exciting. We're literally witnessing the birth of a new creative era. And we have the chance to shape it to make sure it benefits all of us.
We've looked at the UK's copyright proposal, talked about the good and the bad. We even went deep on some big philosophical questions about AI and creativity. But let's bring it back down to earth. What does this mean for me, for the average person?
That's the question, isn't it? How does this touch our everyday lives?
Exactly. How do I even wrap my head around all this?
Well, I think the most important thing is to be aware, to pay attention to what's happening. Learn about AI, read articles, watch documentaries, talk to people about it.
So the more I know, the better choices I can make.
You got it. The more informed we all are, the better decisions we can make about the future we want to build.
Okay, that makes sense. But besides staying informed, what else can I do? Is there anything I can do to actually make a difference in this whole AI thing?
Absolutely. You don't have to be a tech expert to make a difference.
Like what kind of things? Give me some examples.
Well, you can start by supporting human creators. Buy their art, go to their concerts, read their books.
So actually putting my money where my mouth is.
Exactly. When you support human creativity, you're saying loud and clear that human art matters, especially in a world that's increasingly full of AI-generated stuff.
That's a good point. It's like I'm voting with my dollars for the kind of creative future I want. But what about the bigger picture? Policies, regulations, all that?
Mhm.
I'm just one person. What can I really do about that?
Never underestimate the power of your voice. Even one voice can make a difference, especially when you join it with others. Talk to your elected officials, go to town hall meetings, write letters to the editor, make sure they know this is important to you.
So it's about holding those in power accountable, reminding them that this isn't just some abstract tech issue. It affects real people's lives.
That's right. And you don't need to be an expert to have an opinion. Share your experiences, your concerns, your hopes for the future. Those things matter.
I'm starting to feel like I can actually do something. It's not just about sitting back and watching this technological wave crash over us. It's about shaping the wave.
That's exactly the right attitude. And remember, this isn't just about AI or copyright. This is about the future we're building for ourselves and for generations to come.
Wow, you're right. This is a pretty big deal. So what's the main thing you want listeners to take away from this?
The future of AI, it's not set in stone. It's up to us to decide what role AI will play in our lives, in our world. And it starts with each of us getting involved, having those conversations, making our voices heard.
Okay, I'm feeling fired up to learn more, to get involved. But before we move on, is there anything else we need to touch on? Anything big we haven't talked about yet?
There's one more thing I want to stress. It's the human element.
The human element.
Yeah. In all this talk about algorithms, data sets, it's easy to forget that AI is a tool made by humans for humans.
So we shouldn't let the technology, take over the human aspect of it all.
Exactly. We need to remember that AI reflects us, our values, our dreams, even our fears. And as we develop these powerful technologies, we need to do it responsibly. We need to make sure they're used to make the world a better place.
That's a powerful message and a good reminder for us all. But before we officially wrap up this part, I got one last question for you.
Go for it.
If AI can learn to create, shouldn't the law also learn and adapt? Shouldn't it protect the human ingenuity that inspired AI in the first place?
That's a fantastic question, and one that'll be debated for a long time, I think. It really cuts to the core of the issue, makes us think hard about the relationship between technology, creativity, and the law.
It's definitely something I'll be thinking about long after this deep dive is over.
Me too. It's a question that deserves our attention, our careful consideration.
Welcome back for the final part of our deep dive into this AI and copyright situation. We've talked about the UK's proposal, the potential for disruption, but also some exciting possibilities for collaboration, and even gotten into some pretty philosophical territory. Well, let's get practical here. What can our listeners actually do in the face of all this?
It's easy to feel overwhelmed by it all, but honestly, individual actions really do matter. This isn't just some tech shift, it's a societal one, a huge one. We're all figuring out where AI fits into our world, and your voice is a part of that.
Okay, so less doom scrolling, more actually doing something. Got it. But where do we even begin? What's the first step?
First, change your mindset. Don't just read the headlines, really engage with the information. Read articles, yeah, but read them critically. What are the assumptions behind the words? Whose perspectives are missing? And talk to people about it, friends, family, even strangers. You'd be surprised how many people have opinions about AI, even if they don't think they're techie.
So it's like that saying, be the change you want to see. But instead of changing ourselves, we're changing the whole conversation around AI.
Exactly. The more we have these nuanced public discussions, the more it helps everyone, policymakers, companies, even the researchers. They'll be able to make more ethical and informed decisions.
Makes sense. But let's say I'm ready to move beyond just talking. What are some things I can actually do right now?
Think about what you care about most. What are your values? If you're passionate about supporting artists, for example, look for organizations that are fighting for their rights in this AI age. Donate, volunteer, spread the word about their work.
So it's about finding the groups that are already out there doing the good work and giving them our support. Even just amplifying their message can make a difference.
Exactly. And don't forget about the power of your wallet. Choose to support human creators, directly buy their art, go to their concerts, subscribe to their work online. It's a way of showing that human creativity still has value, especially now with all this AI-generated stuff popping up.
That's a great point. It's like voting with our dollars for the kind of creative future we want to see. But what about the bigger picture? The policies and laws surrounding AI. I'm just one person. Can I really have an impact on that?
Never underestimate your voice, especially when it joins with others. Contact your elected officials, show up at town hall meetings, Write letters to the editor, make sure they know that this is an issue you care about, how AI is being developed and regulated.
So it's about holding our leaders accountable, reminding them that this isn't just some abstract tech thing happening in a vacuum. It affects real people's lives, their livelihoods.
Absolutely. And you don't have to be an expert to speak up. Share your own experiences, your concerns, your hopes for the future. Those matter a lot.
This is really empowering. It's easy to feel helpless when you're faced with these huge technological shifts, but you've given us some concrete ways to take action. Any final thoughts before we wrap up?
Just this. Stay curious, stay informed, and stay engaged. The future of AI isn't written yet. We all have a role to play in shaping it.
Well said. And on that note, we've reached the end of our deep dive. A huge thank you to our expert for guiding us through this complex and fascinating world of AI and copyright.
It's been my pleasure. And remember, the conversation doesn't end here. Keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep pushing for a future where AI benefits all of us.
You've been listening to The Deep Dive. Thanks for joining us, and until next time, keep learning, keep thinking, and keep creating.